my dear child. Sometimes the most confusing pain you feel is not because something ended, but because it almost felt like it was meant to stay. You saw the possibility, you felt the connection, you imagined a future that seemed so real, and yet, somewhere deep inside, there was a quiet tension, a feeling you couldn't fully explain, something that didn't completely settle, and instead of stopping to understand it, you kept moving forward, hoping it would make sense later, but now you're left questioning everything, wondering why something that felt so strong became so unstable. And the truth is, not everything that feels right is truly aligned. Sometimes what feels right to your emotions is not right for your life. Because there are moments when God steps in silently, not to take something away from you, but to protect you from something you cannot yet see. And that protection does not always come in obvious ways. Sometimes it comes as confusion, as distance, as things slowly falling apart, and your first instinct is to fix it, to try harder, to hold on tighter, because your heart believes that effort can save it. But what if the reason it's not working is not because you're not doing enough, but because it was never meant to work in the first place? The first thing that begins to happen when God doesn't want you with someone is a loss of peace. And this kind of peace is not about everything being perfect. It is something deeper, something steady, inside you. And when that peace starts to fade, you notice it in small ways. You begin to overthink simple conversations. You question things you once felt sure about. Your mind feels restless, and your heart feels uncertain. And many people ignore this. They call it insecurity, they call it fear, but there is a difference. Fear creates noise, but discernment creates awareness. And when your peace is consistently disturbed, it is often not random, it is a signal. The second thing that happens is that everything starts to feel forced. Nothing flows naturally anymore. Communication becomes inconsistent. Plans don't align. Timing feels off. And no matter how much effort you put in, something always seems to resist moving forward. And this resistance is not something you should overlook, because what God ordains does not require constant struggle just to exist. Yes, relationships require effort, but they should not feel like a constant battle just to keep them alive. When something is truly meant for you, there is alignment, not perfection, but flow. And when that flow is missing, it is a sign you need to pay attention to. The third thing that happens is that you slowly begin to lose parts of yourself. And this is one of the most dangerous signs because it happens quietly. Your priorities begin to shift. Your focus starts to drift. You begin compromising things that once mattered deeply to you. Maybe your time, maybe your values, maybe even your connection with God. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small steps. So small that you don't even notice it at first, until one day you realize you are no longer standing fully in who you used to be. And this is important, because what comes from God will never pull you away from your identity. It will strengthen you, not slowly weaken you. And then comes the fourth thing, a lack of clarity. Everything feels uncertain, undefined. One moment it feels right, the next moment it doesn't. You are constantly trying to figure out where you stand, what the other person feels, what the future looks like. And instead of answers, you are left with more questions. And this confusion keeps you emotionally attached, but mentally exhausted, because you are trying to build something on something that is not stable. And here is something you must remember. God is not the author of confusion. When something is aligned with Him, there is clarity, maybe not instantly, but consistently. There is direction, not constant doubt. And finally, the fifth thing that happens is that distance begins to form. Sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but something starts to separate you. Communication fades, circumstances change, your paths begin to move in different directions, and this is often the most painful part, because your heart may still want to hold on. You may still see the potential, you may still believe it could work, if you just tried harder, but God sees what you cannot. He sees where this connection would lead if it continued, and out of protection, not rejection, He allows that distance to grow. And my dear child, I know this is not easy to accept, because letting go of someone you care about feels like losing a part of your future. But you must understand this. God does not remove something good without a reason. And He does not close a door without seeing what lies ahead, what feels like loss. Right now may actually be protection for your future, something you will only understand later. when you see what you were being saved from. So instead of asking, why did this not work? Begin asking, what is God trying to show me? Instead of forcing what feels uncertain, learn to step back and observe, because sometimes the answer is not in fixing what is falling apart, but in recognizing why it was never meant to stay. And when you begin to see that clearly, you will stop chasing what is not meant for you and start trusting that what is will come with peace, clarity, and alignment, and that is something you should never ignore, my dear child. Now that you've begun to recognize the signs, there is something even deeper you must face. Because understanding that God is separating you from someone is one thing, but accepting it with your whole heart is something entirely different. And this is where many people remain stuck. Not because they don't see the truth, but because they are not ready to release what they feel. Because your heart has a memory. It remembers the good moments, the connection, the comfort, the way things once felt. And even when your spirit begins to sense that something is not right, your heart keeps replaying what it wants to hold on to. And this creates a tension inside you, a quiet battle between what you feel and what you know. And if you're not careful, that tension can keep you in a place where you are neither moving forward nor fully letting go. Just existing in between, hoping something will change. But listen carefully. Holding on to something that God is removing will always create confusion, because you are trying to keep something that is already losing its place in your life, and that is why everything begins to feel unstable. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are resisting something that is meant to shift. And the longer you resist it, the heavier it feels, the more draining it becomes, until eventually you find yourself exhausted, not just emotionally, but mentally and spiritually as well. And my dear child, you must understand this truth. Letting go is not losing. It is aligning. It is choosing to trust God's direction even when your emotions are pulling you in the opposite way. And yes, that choice is painful, because your emotions will try to convince you that if you just hold on a little longer, things might change. That if you just try one more time, things might work. But what you must ask yourself is this: how many times have you already tried, and how many times has it led you back to the same place? Because repetition without change is not progress. It is a cycle, and cycles only break when you make a different decision, not based on what you feel in the moment, but based on what you have already seen over time. And here is something else you need to see clearly. Sometimes you are not holding on because it is right. You are holding on because it is familiar, because it gave you comfort, because it filled a space inside you that now feels empty again. And that emptiness can feel uncomfortable. It can make you want to go back, not because it is good for you, but because it feels easier than facing what is missing. But going back will not fill that space. It will only delay your healing. Because that space was not meant to be filled by the same person. It was meant to be filled by growth, by understanding, by a deeper connection with God. And when you avoid that process, you keep yourself attached to something that is no longer aligned with your life. And my dear child, when God removes someone from your life, He is not only protecting your future, He is protecting your identity. Because if you had stayed, you would have slowly become someone you were never meant to be, someone who compromises too much, someone who ignores their own worth, someone who accepts confusion just to avoid being alone, and that is not the life God has for you. And yes, there will be moments when you feel lonely, moments when you miss the connection, when you wonder if you will ever feel something like that again, but you must remind yourself of this. What you miss is often the feeling, not the reality, because if you look back honestly, you will see that the same connection that gave you moments of happiness also brought you moments of confusion, doubt, and inner unrest, and that is not something you should desire to return to. Instead, begin to shift your focus from what you lost to what you are gaining. You are gaining clarity. You are gaining strength. You are learning how to recognize what is truly aligned with you. And these things are preparing you for something better, something that will not require you to question your place in it. And my dear child, do not rush this process. Do not try to replace what you lost just to avoid the feeling of emptiness, because quick replacements often lead to repeated patterns, and you deserve more than repetition. You deserve alignment. So allow yourself to feel what you feel, but do not allow yourself to go back, because going back will only take you further away from where you are meant to be, and where you are meant to be is not. Behind you, it is ahead of you, and one day, you will look back at this moment and understand. You will no longer ask why it didn't work. You will see why it couldn't. You will recognize the signs you once ignored, and instead of feeling loss, you will feel gratitude, because you will realize that what felt like something ending was actually something protecting you from what was never meant to last. So trust this process, my dear child. Trust the distance, trust the silence, trust the change, because what God is doing right now is not taking something away from you. He is making space, and a space for something that will not confuse your heart. Space for something that will not require you to lose yourself. Space for something that will come with peace, clarity, and true alignment. And when it arrives, you will understand why you had to let go. My dear child, now that you have begun to understand the signs and the process of letting go, there is one final truth you must hold on to. Because this is where everything becomes clear. This is where you stop seeing the situation as something that happened to you and start seeing it as something that guided you. Because what you experienced was not just a relationship that didn't work, it was direction. It was God quietly redirecting your path, even when your heart wanted to stay where it was. And I know there is still a part of you that wonders, what if it could have worked? What if I had done something differently? Or what if I let something real go? But those questions come from attachment, not clarity. Because if something is truly meant for you, it will not depend on you forcing it to survive. It will not require constant effort just to keep it from falling apart. What comes from God may require patience, growth, and understanding, but it will not require you to lose your peace in order to hold on to it. And this is something you must begin to trust. Peace is not just a feeling, it is confirmation. When something is right, there is a stability beneath it. Even when things are not perfect, even when there are challenges, there is a sense of grounding that keeps you from feeling lost. But when something is not meant for you, that grounding is missing, and instead, you feel pulled in different directions, uncertain, restless, constantly trying to figure out what is happening, and that is not how God leads. And my dear child, one of the hardest lessons you will ever learn is that someone can feel right to your heart, but not be right for your life. And accepting that truth requires strength, because it asks you to let go of what feels familiar in order to step into what is aligned. And that step is not easy. It requires you to trust something you cannot fully see yet. It requires you to release something you once believed in, and that can feel like losing a part of yourself. But listen carefully. You are not losing yourself. You are finding yourself again. Because when you stay in something that is not aligned, you slowly move away from who you truly are. You begin to compromise your values, your boundaries, your peace, and over time, you become someone you don't fully recognize. And that is why God intervenes, not to take something from you, but to bring you back to yourself. And here is something you must understand deeply. Just because something didn't work out does not mean your desire for love was wrong. Your longing for connection is not a mistake. It is something God placed within you. But that does not mean every person who enters your life is meant to fulfill that desire. Some people come to teach, some come to reveal, and some come to prepare you for what is truly meant for you. And this is why you must not rush forward trying to replace what you lost. Because if you move too quickly, you risk repeating the same pattern. You risk choosing familiarity over alignment and ending up in the same place again. And you deserve more than that. You deserve something that does not confuse you, something that does not make you question your worth, something that does not require you to fight for clarity. So take this time to grow, to reflect, to rebuild your sense of self, to strengthen your connection with God, because this season you are in right now is not empty. It is preparation. It is shaping your understanding, your standards, your awareness, so that when the right person enters your life, you will not confuse them with someone who only felt right temporarily. And my dear child, when that moment comes, you will feel the difference. You will not have to overthink every detail. You will not have to question where you stand. You will not feel like you are constantly trying to hold things together. Instead, there will be a sense of alignment, a sense of peace that remains even when things are not perfect, a sense of clarity that does not disappear when emotions change. And that is how you will know. Not through intensity, not through pressure, not through confusion, but through consistency, through stability, through a connection that builds you instead of breaking you. So do not look back with regret. Do not question what had to end, because what ended was never meant to carry you into your future. It was only meant to bring you to this point, this place of understanding, of growth, of clarity, and from here, everything begins to shift. Trust that what is meant for you is still ahead. Trust that what God is preparing will not require you to force it, and trust that when it comes, you will recognize it, not just with your emotions, but with your spirit, and that is something you will never have to question again.